Hey everyone, it's Steven. Today I have the 2023 BMW i4 M50. This is the electric version of BMW's 4 Series Grand Coupe, which is essentially just going to be their 4-door luxury sedan, but with a bit of a sloped roofline in the back. This first debuted in the 2022 model year, so now it's in its second model year, the 2023, and all they did for this year is they just added a new base trim that's more affordable with a weaker motor. So the i4 M50 is going to be the performance version of that, essentially giving you a lot more power output. So this one starts at an MSRP of just about $67,000. As tested, this one's pretty much fully loaded, about $76,000 for that, so quite a big chunk of money there. The M50 has a dual motor setup with an 81.5 kilowatt hour battery, and it makes 536 horsepower and 586 pound-feet of torque. You get some insane 0 to 60 times of about 3.7 seconds. This thing is very, very quick, and it feels even quicker than something like the M3 competition, which is kind of crazy to say because this isn't even really a full M vehicle, right? This is all mated to a single-speed automatic transmission with standard all-wheel drive across the entire lineup, and gets you interesting ranges depending on what sort of wheels you have. So essentially, if you have the 20-inch wheels, you get less range, but if you have the 19-inch like this one does, you actually get 270 miles of range. The 20-inch wheels give you a much smaller one of 227 miles. Definitely not the greatest. Over the past few days of driving this, I have noticed though, in some winter chilly weather here, we've been getting more like 205 miles, which is a pretty steep decrease from the 270 that the EPA estimates. You do get pretty good efficiency though. You have 96 miles per gallon equivalent, so definitely better than some other things like the e-tron I recently reviewed. And since the electric vehicle market just isn't that large yet, this vehicle actually doesn't have that many direct competitors. I think the closest thing is going to be the Model 3 Performance, similar hatchback style, similar storage, similar practicality, but a cheaper price tag on that Tesla Model 3 Performance. But I mean, I think this car is way more gorgeous and it's a lot more interesting, right? You see the Model 3 everywhere now. You do get similar performance though, but of course this one has that famous BMW M heritage to it. Let's get into this gorgeous exterior. I love the paint job on this. This is called Sunset Orange Metallic, which is a $650 option. I think probably the best of their $650 options. I will say though that BMW has some excellent paint choices here. You've got some really gorgeous ones that can go up to like the $3,000+ mark, but I think this is probably the best cheap one. Going into the grille here, you've got the basic 4 Series grille, right? You've got that huge hognose kidney grille that everyone talked about when the M440i first came out, I think, what, 2 years ago now? You can actually check out my review of that one. I'll link it in the corner. But it's kind of cool because I've been able to drive both the ICE version of this car and the EV version. So the grille here you can see is actually a plastic grille. So you don't have any vents because why would this car need that? But you do have the M badge. Looks pretty nice. And honestly, I think it matches this orange, this burnt orange color really, really well. Going into the actual front here though, or the actual hood, you don't actually have a frunk, which is really interesting. So that makes this car a little less practical than some of the competitors, right? You would think almost all EVs have some sort of frunk, but this one doesn't have anything like that. Another subtle way to differentiate this between the internal combustion engine version of this and the EV is that the EVs have this nice blue circle around the BMW logo, signifying that, you know, electricity sort of thing that I think a lot of other manufacturers do, like Toyota. Going into the headlights here, these are classic BMW, gorgeous headlights. These are the iconic headlights that do corner and swivel. So they look really nice at night, and you've got that nice like blue laser light in the background, which I think looks really gorgeous. And then going into the side profile here, you've got your typical muscular body lines on the side. You do have some aerodynamic looking vents there, obviously not cooling anything though. And then these are the 19-inch wheels. So this one's a pretty nice option. This one does come with a shadow line package, which is why you get things like the blacked out mirror caps and some of the blacked out vent elements in the front grille. And moving along the side profile here, you've got a nice black side skirt. Also looks really nice with this orange color, right? I just think that like dark orange and black, they really complement each other on this vehicle. You've also got flush door handles, right? Pretty much what you would expect from any EV these days. They look decent, but I've heard that they can freeze and make it difficult to open. So something to consider if you're gonna have winter weather like here in Chicago. So going over to the fuel tank looking thing here, which is actually obviously not a fuel tank, it's kind of cool that they made it look exactly like a normal fuel tank, but this is actually where you're going to plug in the charging cord here. So pretty simple. I can show you guys a video here. You just kind of unplug these things and you've got your typical adapters for your EV charging stations. And now moving into the rear here, you've got very typical design language. This looks a lot like the 4 Series, the ICE version of it at least. There's really nothing you can tell that, you know, this is an EV, aside from the fact that you have no exhaust vents, right? So definitely no exhaust note, which is a little bit of a bummer, but you do have this sick looking rear diffuser, right? I love this rear diffuser. I think it looks a lot more muscular and sporty than the normal ICE 4 Series. You've also got their new taillight design. Looks fine. I kind of wish there was some sort of light bar, but it looks pretty cool. You do have, again, that blue outline signifying that this is an electric vehicle. And then going into the actual trunk here, it is a power liftgate, which is pretty nice. You also do have the kick function if you want to use that. This is pretty much jam-packed full of stuff here, and you can see it's about 16.6 cubic feet of cargo space, which is decent for the size, but again, you don't have a frunk, so this is pretty much all the cargo you can put in. All right, let's jump into the interior of the 2023 i4 M50. First thing, you can't really see that, or at least it's just faded away, is the welcome carpet. I think that's a really nice feature of this. You've also got those flush door handles, like I said before. Pretty nice. Of course, you've got entry and exits without having to actually take out your key. Speaking of the key, you've got a typical BMW key fob. Does have the M badging on it, though. It looks pretty nice. So the first thing you'll notice definitely is that gorgeous Tacora red Vernasca leather that they have here. This is a $1,500 option. I think well worth it because it looks a lot nicer, has the contrast stitching, and looks a lot nicer than the base seats. I don't know, I still don't love the red color with the orange exterior, but I don't know, I think it looks fine. I had a little watermelon theme going on with the green ambient lighting. I think you can see there, it looks pretty nice. I do also love the carbon fiber trim. That's actually a really cheap option, so I would highly recommend people getting that one, if you like carbon fiber, of course. And going to the door panel really quickly, you do have two-way memory control for the driver's side. Unfortunately, nothing for the passenger. And you do have a like 10-way adjustable seats or something like that. So not the greatest, but definitely easy to get comfortable in these really nice seats. Looking at the steering wheel, I absolutely love the contrast stitching, the blue and red. I think it looks awesome, and that really hones in the M theme. You've got the M badge on the steering wheel. Heated steering wheel is in the exact same spot. Unfortunately, they moved all the climate controls into this menu here. I hate it. I don't know why people do that. You do have a nice heads-up display with a lot of different configuration options. I do like having it in a different view, but yeah, look at that. It's pretty cool, and I like the graphics. They're very smooth, but I usually keep it in this display, which they call Sport. And going over here, you have your typical BMW steering wheel. So none of this has actually changed compared to their ICE vehicles. I think the biggest update is going to be the screen with the iDrive 8 infotainment system. And then, of course, just some of the badging, right? You've got that blue again, signifying that it is an electric vehicle. And going into here, you've got a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. It looks very nice, pretty configurable, but you can't really change what actually appears. So definitely not as configurable as Audi or even Mercedes. The star of the show here is going to be that 14.9-inch display here. As you can see, you've got perfect Apple CarPlay. So I love it. It takes up the entire screen, looks like Genesis. Fantastic choice there. Unfortunately, the climate menu, like I said, is hidden in this menu. Weird. I hate having to reach in here to turn on heated seats. that shouldn't be a thing in my opinion. But otherwise, it's pretty easy to use. You do also have the choice of using this manual version, so you don't have to actually use the touchscreen. But I don't know, this area is old now, and I feel like BMW could definitely refresh this. I do like the carbon fiber and the contrast stitching here, though, and the aluminum. Very, very little use of piano black plastic, which I think looks really good, and I think that makes it look a bit more upscale, I think, and it definitely helps the build quality, I think. You do have that blue lined gear shift, so I think that, you know, helps you know that you're not in just a normal ICE vehicle. And then, of course, the blue start and stop button as well. You've got wireless charging pad that is like a $100 or $200 additional option. Cup holder is pretty standard. And yeah, I mean, overall, I think the actual cabin itself and the screens are impressive, right? Like, you get in this cabin and you know you're immediately in a luxurious vehicle. However, the problem, I think, is that once you start using it more, you realize that it's not the most practical thing, right? Like, the infotainment system is just, iDrive 8, as nice and fast as it is, and like, look, this looks awesome. I love that it's the exact same car. And you have a really nice 360 camera, and you have all the cool BMW tech that you could ever want. It's all widget based, and like, I get that they're trying to do it like an app or like an iPhone, right, or like a Android. But the problem is that it's just not the same, I think. And it's so smooth, right? This is amazing in terms of like technologically advanced, but it's just not the most practical thing. I think that's kind of the problem with this vehicle. Is like, I don't know how much like usability testing BMW does because I just feel like no one wants integrated climate controls into the screen, right? I just want some physical buttons here, but people keep doing it in the car industry, and I don't know why. But overall, the actual cabin feel, very nice, ambient lighting, good tech. You pretty much have everything you want in this car. All right, now we're gonna go into the second row. So definitely not the forte of this vehicle, but I mean, one kind of cool thing is, yes, that is a tree in the back seat. We are transporting this, but the nice thing is that you do have a decent amount of space. Just so you know, it's not a real tree, it's a fake plastic one. But anyways, you do have a decent amount of space here. Like, it fits this pretty large tree, backpacks. You do have a kind of, not really a pano sunroof, but you at least do have a sunroof. And getting into the vehicle, a little hard to show you, but I'll show you in a different shot what legroom and headroom actually looks like. Definitely not the nicest headroom. I'm 5'8" and I'm pretty squeezed back here. So this car's not going to be the most convenient if you're looking for actual practicality in the backseat. Kids would be fine. Adults probably wouldn't be the happiest for a long road trip. This is in a normal seating position, so you can see that my legs are quite crushed here. Otherwise, the actual rear aesthetic looks pretty good. You've still got that nice leather, and it is quite comfortable. And I mean, I kind of wish it had a larger sunroof, but it's large enough that it lets in enough light and feels pretty airy for the actual rear passengers. Let's take this on the road and see what it's like to drive the new i4 M50. Does it live up to the M badge? I will say, from an acceleration standpoint, it more than lives up to it. In fact, it surpasses many of the actual full M vehicles, like the M3 competition, for example. So, I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone's gonna have any problems with the acceleration here. However, this is one of those things that you just have to expect with some electric vehicles. This car is much heavier than the 4 Series. So that's just one of the biggest, I don't even want to say it's a disappointment, because this is something that I think I really expected, but like, you've got the acceleration of an M vehicle, but you don't have the handling. I think that's the problem, is like, some diehard enthusiasts out there are probably not going to like the fact that this car doesn't corner as well as the M4 competition, for example, but you do have a lot of power at your disposal, and the instant torque is still nothing that, it far surpasses what the M3 or M4 could do, right? So I mean, at the end of the day, this instant torque is going to have such an impact on how much fun it is to drive around town when you can really just rock it off of any starting point. I think another thing this car does better than the ICE equivalent is just the ride quality in general. So I feel like with the heavier, larger, more imposing, just design language of this vehicle, it actually is quite a bit more quiet. I think that's also because there's no engine, obviously, but overall, I just think this car is much more of a quiet cruiser. I think that's the thing. It's like, this car isn't so much athletic and crazy like the M3 competition, right? But this car gives you that more quiet, composed ride that some people might want, right? When you go to an EV like this, I feel like a lot of EV buyers are really looking for that luxury experience. This car definitely gives you that quiet, composed ride without sacrificing the acceleration and the fun factor, I think. Overall, this is just not going to be the canyon carver that the M3 and M4 are, though. So in terms of pros and cons of this vehicle, I mean, the pros are the price is quite compelling, right? Like, getting a 0 to 60 time of 3.7 seconds for about $75,000, or if you don't want to spec out some of the driver assistance package things, around $70,000 is pretty great. And this car gives you the $7,500 federal tax credit still, whereas something like the Tesla Model 3 Performance won't get you that. So I think just overall, like, this is a pretty good price point for the performance of this vehicle, and just the overall luxury. I feel like this car looks fantastic. It gets stairs everywhere it goes, and you don't have to have that boisterous, crazy exhaust that might come with the M3 or M4, right? So you can really kind of slip under the radar depending on what color you get, I guess. Overall, this is still going to be a sporty car. It looks very muscular on the outside. I think like the fender flares, the body lines, the side skirts, that rear diffuser looks really excellent. It'd be cool if there's some more carbon fiber. Maybe they're trying to save it for an i4M or something like that, but the carbon fiber on the interior, the contrast stitching, it is just a really well put together thing. I feel like BMW clearly thought this one through and didn't just haphazardly throw, some platform on top of their normal 4 Series. They wanted to differentiate this and make sure that the performance was still there. Really, when it comes down to it, the only cons of this vehicle that I can think of are, I guess the styling can be a little polarizing, and then it's really that infotainment system, right? Like, iDrive 7 was fantastic. Still a little confusing, but iDrive 7 was good. iDrive 8, I mean, I love the screen, right? The 15-inch screen is huge. It looks fantastic. Apple CarPlay looks fantastic on it. And I think just, the general look of the interior looks really good. and the build quality is there, and nothing rattles. It feels really well put together. But I mean, I just want some more physical controls. I hate having to go into the climate menu to turn on my heated seats. I think that's a little ridiculous. I think the center console is a little outdated too. I really don't think you need some things like that little touchpad. Just clean that up a little bit, make the shift knob a bit more interesting, and I think this vehicle could have such an excellent interior. And I mean, it already does, but it could be even better. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. This was really fun. I love seeing more EVs out and about. Check out some of my other reviews here, and you can subscribe down here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks, bye.